She said, "I'm going to Europe for the summer to find myself." "Don't wait up," I replied. "Safe travels." Then I sublet our apartment. Her shock when she came back early to find a new family living in her home. I, 29 male, am writing this because I need to get out of my head. My brain has been running on a logic loop for the past month, and the emotional side is just starting to catch up. 3 months ago, my life with my girlfriend of 4 years, Isabel, 27, felt normal. We lived in a great one-bedroom apartment. The lease was solely in my name. I'd had the place before she moved in, and it was just easier to keep the paperwork, since my income as a systems architect was stable, and hers as a freelance illustrator was not. We never thought twice about it. We were happy, I thought. We even spent 6 months of weekends building a massive floor-to-ceiling walnut bookshelf and desk unit, a symbol of the life we were building. Then about 5 weeks ago, Isabel became distant. She sat me down one night with a strange, determined look. "Lil," she said, "I feel stuck. I don't know who I am outside of us." She announced she was going to Europe for the summer alone to find herself, to sketch, travel, and have space. She was leaving in 2 weeks. The phrase that stuck with me was, "Don't wait up." It wasn't, "I'll miss you." It was a dismissal. But what can you do? Arguing feels like you're trapping them. So I just said, "Okay, safe travels." The 2 weeks before she left were a blur of polite distance. The day she left, she gave me a quick kiss and said, "I'll text when I land, but space." The silence she left behind was deafening. A week later, I found the truth by accident. She'd used my laptop to print her flight confirmations and forgotten to log out of her email. A notification popped up from a Julian C with the subject line "Rear Itinerary." I clicked. I know I shouldn't have, but I did. The email thread laid it all out. It wasn't a solo trip. This Julian, a photographer, was with her. They'd planned it for months. His emails were intimate. Hers were excited. One line from her to him burned itself into my brain. Just 2 more weeks of playing house. Leo has no idea. He's so predictable. He'll just sit and wait. It's almost sad. The hurt I've been feeling curdled into cold, clear calm. She thought I was a placeholder, a convenient home base she could return to after her adventure. Okay, she wanted space. I'd help her be truly, completely on her own. My response wasn't emotional. It was a checklist. First, I checked the lease. Sole tenant, Leo Maxwell. Legally, she was a long-term guest who had just left for 3 months. Second, financials. We had separate accounts. She hadn't even paid her share of rent for the month she left. Third, the apartment. I wouldn't cover her share while she was on a romantic getaway. The logical solution was a sublet. I posted an ad online for a 3-month landlord-approved sublet. I found the perfect tenants, a couple, Mark and Alicia, with a 5-year-old daughter. They were moving for Alicia's hospital residency, and their new house wasn't ready. They were stable, responsible, and a family, not someone Isabel could easily intimidate. My landlord approved the sublease agreement. The next step was packing up 4 years of her life. I bought boxes and methodically packed everything: her clothes, art supplies, trinkets. Each item was a small paper cut on my memory, but I just kept going. I rented a 10 by 10 storage unit, moved every box into it, and locked it up. The only thing I couldn't pack was the bookshelf, bolted to the wall like a permanent fixture. Mark and Alicia moved in less than 2 weeks after Isabel had left. I moved into a smaller, cheaper month-to-month place. Then I sent Isabel one final text, ignoring the dozens of breezy vacation pictures she'd sent. "Me, Isabel, I know about Julian. The email you left open on my laptop explained everything. I've accepted your request for space and your decision to end our relationship. Your belongings are safe. When you return, contact me, and I will arrange for you to pick them up. The apartment has been sublet. I wish you the best in your new life." Then I blocked her number. I blocked Julian. I blocked her everywhere. A clean break. Now I just had to wait. Update 1. It happened sooner than I expected. Last Wednesday around 11 p.m., my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I finally answered on the 5th call. It was Alicia, the subletter, her voice stressed. "There's a woman here. she whispered. She's banging on the door, yelling your name. She says she lives here. She was back. Don't worry. I told her, my own anger flaring. You have a legal sublease. Do not open the door. I'm on my way. If she gets more aggressive, call the police yourselves. When I pulled up to the building, I could see Isabel on the stoop, her big backpack at her feet, yelling into her phone. She looked furious. Isabel, I said calmly as I walked up. She spun around, her eyes wide with shock, then rage. Leo, what is going on? Who are these people in our home? I came back early to surprise you, and my key doesn't work. The audacity of her surprise narrative was breathtaking. It's not our home, Isabel. It's my apartment. And you know why they're here? Did you not get my text? Your insane text? I thought you were having a breakdown. I came back because I was worried. Worried? I said, my voice flat. Or did things with Julian not work out? The color drained from her face. The mention of his name shattered her act. You read my emails. You had no right. And you had no right to lie to me for months while using me as your safety net. You wanted space. You got it. This is crazy. You can't just kick me out. Half of everything in there is mine. Our bookshelf is in there. I have rights. Actually, you don't. You were never on the lease. You were a guest who vacated the premises. As for your belongings, they're safe. I pulled an envelope from my pocket. Here's the key to your storage unit on Grove Street. I've paid for first month. She stared at the key as if it were a snake. A storage unit? You put my life in a box. From inside, a child started to cry. Her shouting had scared Maya. That was it for me. You are upsetting a child. This is over. Take the key and leave these people alone. I am not going anywhere. I want my stuff now. I want my bookshelf. If you are not off this property in 5 minutes, I said, my voice low and cold, I will call the police and have you removed for trespassing. Mark, the husband, opened the door a crack. Is everything handled? My wife is about to call about a public disturbance. That finally did it. The threat from a neutral party made her deflate. She snatched the envelope from my hand, glared at me with pure venom, and stormed off. This isn't over, she spat. I stayed to apologize to Mark and Alicia, giving them a discount on their next month's rent. As I left, I knew this was just the beginning. She hadn't been heartbroken. She had been inconvenienced, and that made her infinitely more dangerous. Update 2. The next few weeks were deceptively quiet. Turns out she was just gathering reinforcements. The first move came via my sister, Clara. I had the strangest call from Isabel's mom, Diane. Clara told me, her voice confused. She was crying, saying, you'd thrown Isabel out for no reason after she had an emotional wobble in Europe. She said, Isabel is catatonic with grief. The narrative was set. I was a monster. She was a sensitive artist. Then Clara continued. She asked if I could convince you to let Isabel back in to retrieve the Berkshire unit. The what? The big bookshelf thing. She called it a priceless piece of custom art that you're holding hostage out of spite. They'd given it a fancy name to lend it weight. I told Clara the bookshelf was a fixture and wasn't going anywhere. This was their new angle. Not just her stuff, but the one thing that was immovable, the one thing that symbolized our life together. A week later, a letter arrived from a law firm. It was full of intimidating legalese, claiming I performed an unlawful eviction and was in possession of assets, including a custom furniture piece valued at an estimated $15,000. It demanded I provide immediate access to the apartment and financial compensation for her wrongful displacement and emotional distress. My heart pounded, but then I reread it. The language was all bluster and vague threats. This had her father's fingerprints all over it. He was a businessman who thought he could muscle me into submission. I didn't respond. I booked a 1-hour consultation with a lawyer specializing in tenancy law. Miss Evans, my new lawyer, reviewed my documents, the lease, the sublease agreement, Isabel's email to Julian. Mr. Maxwell, she said, tapping the threatening letter, you are in a very strong position. Your ex-girlfriend was not a tenant. She has no claim. This letter is designed to scare you. She confirmed the bookshelf was a fixture and their valuation was a fantasy. She drafted a brutally efficient response stating that Isabel was a guest who had vacated, her portable belongings were available, and the bookshelf was a fixture. It concluded by stating any further correspondence would be considered harassment. We sent the letter. The saber-rattling stopped for about 5 days. Their next move was the dirtiest. 2 police officers knocked on my door for a welfare check. Isabel's mother, Diane, had called them, reporting she was concerned for my erratic mental state and worried I might be a danger myself. It was a vicious, calculated attempt to create an official record of me being unstable. I calmly explained the situation to the officers. This is a malicious and false report stemming from a contentious breakup, I told them. They understood, filed their report, and left. But I was shaking with rage. They had crossed a line, weaponizing public services against me. The time for passive defense was over. It was time to go on the offensive. I called Miss Evans again. They called the police on me. I said, I want this to stop permanently. She replied, I think it's time we send them a bill. Final update. It's been almost a year since Isabel left. After the welfare check, Miss Evans and I put together a final package. It wasn't just a threat. It was a final invoice. We sent a formal cease and desist letter to Isabel's lawyer. It demanded an immediate end to all contact from her or her family, detailing every instance of harassment from the calls to my sister to the false police report. It stated any further contact will result in us filing for an anti-harassment order. Attached was an itemized invoice for costs incurred due to her actions, unpaid rent, her half of the month she left, storage costs, 3 months of rent for unit, moving expenses, receipts for the van and boxes, legal fees, the full cost of my consultation with Miss Evans, the Berkshire unit buyout. This was the best part. We offered to acquire her share of the fixture. We valued it at 50% of the raw material cost, for $100, then deducted the estimated cost of wall, repair if it were removed. The final offer for her priceless art piece was a check for $75. The invoice totaled just over $3,000. The final paragraph stated, we would consider the debt settled if she signed a document relinquishing all claims to any property in the apartment, specifically the bookshelf, and ceased all contact. If they refused, we would file in small claims court, armed with a mountain of evidence of their bad faith. It was checkmate. Her businessman father would understand the logic of cutting his losses. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived accepting the terms. A signed, notarized document relinquishing all claims followed. There was no apology, just a signature. That was all I needed. I never heard from any of them again. I moved back into my apartment after Mark and Alicia left. The bookshelf was the first thing I dealt with. It was a monument to a lie. I spent a full Saturday dismantling it. The solid walnut planks were too beautiful to waste, so I repurposed them. Over the next few weekends, I built a new coffee table and floating shelves. I was transforming the symbol of our shared past into the foundations of my own future. I heard through the grapevine what happened to Isabel. Julian, the photographer, had only intended a summer fling and wanted nothing to do with her drama. When she returned, she crashed with her parents, but they grew tired of her victim narrative. The last I heard, she was working a retail job in a smaller city, complaining to anyone who would listen about how I had ruined her life and stolen her masterpiece. She never took responsibility. As for me, I'm good, better actually. The ordeal taught me that I am not the predictable pushover she thought I was. When pushed, I don't lash out, I strategize. My victory was quiet and written on legal paper. She wanted Summer to find herself without consequences, assuming I would be the loyal home base she could return to. She discovered her home base had its own foundation and would not be used as a doormat. She was forced to face the world she chose completely on her own, and that, I've come to realize, is the most satisfying justice of all.